In 1944, Harry Dexter White and John Maynard Keynes were working on a project to help establish European economies once World War II ended. After years of prior planning, they finally established the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund at the Bretton Woods Summit in 1944. Originally known as the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, their original goal was to help relieve economic tension in post-war Europe, with hopes of accomplishing two different things. Firstly, to prevent another Great Depression from happening, and secondly, to prevent a Third World War stemming from another Great Depression. Although over time their mission statement has slowly changed. Since there hasn't been another Great Depression or a Third World War, the World Bank has changed their focus, and now, instead of that, they seek to end global poverty. The first headquarters of this non-governmental organization were originally and still are located in Washington, D.C., United States of America. Today, you can find the World Bank active in more than 100 countries. And even more so, the World Bank usually has more than one project in operation at a time in many of these countries. For example, from looking at this map, we can see that there are more World Bank projects in India and China than there are in Brazil, and more in Brazil than Egypt. Currently, the World Bank is working on many different projects related to global poverty. For instance, improving infrastructure, helping to lower infant mortality rates, and supplying developing countries with low-interest money loans. For example, the World Bank has helped to either improve or create 118,000 kilometers of roads in various countries around the world. One of the main focuses of this in particular is that so people can get around easier, but mainly so that they can reach healthcare faster if it's needed. The World Bank also offers programs such as agriculture and rural development, environment and energy development, finance and private sector development, human development and public service, and poverty and inequality rights and development. The World Bank also needs ways to get money, and it does this in various different ways. The first way the World Bank makes money is by selling AAA-rated bonds to the world's financial markets. World Bank bonds are purchased by a wide range of private institutional investors in North America, Europe, and Asia. However, the World Bank makes most of its money by lending out its multi-billion-dollar capital to its 188 member countries with interest. The bank also has a $178 billion reserve called the callable capital, which is used by World Bank shareholders to meet World Bank obligations should they have debt problems. When countries that have loaned money from the World Bank pay off their interest values, the World Bank also gets a lot of profit from this. This is generally spent on countries that are in most debt, for offering interest-free loans to the world's poorest countries, and also for responding to unforeseen humanitarian crises. If the rest of the money is unneeded, it goes into the reserve. Finally, the big question. Is the World Bank a helpful, useful NGO or not? For my first case study, I've chosen the Malaria Relief Project in Zambia. In Zambia, malaria accounts for 45% of all hospitalizations, 40% of deaths of the children under the age of 5, and 20% of maternal mortality. Because of this, productivity losses and worker absenteeism also has caused the GDP in Zambia to fall approximately 1.5%. In 2006, the government of Zambia and the World Bank launched the 2006 to 2011 National Malaria Strategic Plan. This plan implemented a budget of over $169.5 million throughout 2010. The plan also set some very high targets for scaling up the national response to the disease. The mission statement for the project released were the following three: reduce the incidence of malaria by 75% and child mortality by 20%. Find treatment for at least 80% of new malaria cases within 24 hours of symptom onset, and provide protective measures such as treated bed nets and indoor spraying for at least 80% of those at risk of malaria, particularly pregnant women and children under the age of 5. I would say this project is a success because by 2008, households with long-lasting insecticide-treated bed nets increased from 48% to 72%. Indoor residual spraying coverage increased from 15 districts in 2006 to 36 districts in 2008, and population coverage increased from 1.2 million to 3.5 million people. And for all age groups, malaria cases declined 31%, while deaths by malaria cases declined 37%. My second case study is aimed around the Project Areas Management and Sustainable Use Project, also known as the PAMSU. The project originally cost between 33 and 39 million US dollars from the World Bank. 29 of which was a loan to be paid back with interest, and the rest was a grant. The money was went for building the headquarters of Uganda Wildlife Authority, setting up infrastructure in 10 national parks and 12 wildlife reserves, and building staff quarters in all parks. The money was reportedly terribly misspent, and also, while management and staff houses were supposed to be built in 10 national parks, structures were built in only 4, and even the sizes were sharply. After this, the World Bank approved for Uganda to borrow an additional $43 million. Personally, I think this is really bad, because the World Bank, even though it knows that extra money isn't going to be good for the country, is still willing to give away as much as it can, because it knows that plus interest is going to come back in one way or another.